Hello and welcome back. Before we get to part 2, Real Talk, please allow us to fulfill our capitalistic duty and plug our Patreon, the Contrarians Supplements.
That's right. For a small fee, you too can help the Contrarians rage on.
We have tiers ranging from just $1 to $10. It all depends on how much content you can handle.
Starting at $1, it's a Travoltis tier, which gets you access to new bonus episodes focusing on a new movie every month, as well as access to the patron chat. Join other patrons in making fun of our opinions.
Moving up to $3 is the Winoni's tier, which unlocks access to our pre-recording notes, our video reviews, and our spin-off show, Contrarians After Hours.
That's a more laid-back space where we talk about other things we've been watching, reading, playing, thinking about. Sometimes it's related to the movies being covered in the main feed, but it usually isn't.
If you want to be part of those patrons who help us shape the show by telling us which movies to tackle, that's when you sign up for the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10, the Gads.
Finally, all supplement subscribers, regardless of the tier, get access to our archive of special patron projects. Head over to patreon.com/contrarianprime now to join.
Be sure to listen through the end of the episode to find out what's coming up to the Contrarian Supplements this month. Now, it's time for some Real Talk.
My BFI player choice this week is a 1999 cause célèbre from agent provocateur Catherine Breillat, a film that pushed at the boundaries of what was then permissible in mainstream cinema and challenged age-old notions of pornography and the male gaze. Speaking to Linda Ruth Williams for Sight and Sound magazine at the time of Romance's original release, Breillat explained that in her film, the images portray an idea and the characters experience emotion. That is the difference between it and pornography.
All right, Julio, we have had some fun with B2B up until this point, but things took a decidedly different tone this evening, did they not?
Yes. Bit of an understatement. If we were programming these as a festival, film festival, these are the screenings, and they're just blind screenings. So you go in and you don't know what's gonna come next, and so you start with Rabid, and then 50 to Pick Up, and then Running Man, and then suddenly you get hit with Romance. It's like
hell of a day.
Yeah, 10 o'clock screening. You're a little tired, and then this either wakes you up or puts you to sleep. You probably walk out. It's very likely.
Yeah. After those three movies, yeah, and I mean, this is one of the longer 90-minute movies I've ever seen in my life. I'll just go ahead and get that out in the open. This movie's like fucking, it's like 4 scenes with interstitials is basically what this is. But it's interesting. And the behind-the-scenes story, I'm afraid to say Julio's going to take some turns too. But let's go ahead and get into it with the quotes. I know you pulled Big Raj, and towards the end of this, I'm going to read his full review. But if you want to go ahead and read our positive reviews and let me know what you found in addition to our buddy Roger.
Yeah, we'll use I'll close with the Roger quote as a tease.
There we go.
The full review to come. Before we hit the quotes, by the way, Alex, I forgot to bring it up. But how did you watched it on Tubi also, because you were talking about the commercials. So
yes, sir.
Did you have trouble getting to the movie? Because I typed romance and I just got a whole bunch of romance movies. Romantic movies.
So I started it, like I said, I mentioned on my work computer, and I was like, I shouldn't do this. And so I just Googled it. I Googled Romance 1999, and that little icon comes up. It tells you what platforms it's on. So I just clicked on that Tubi icon, and it takes you right to the page, right?
Yeah.
And then when I went to finish it on my TV, I pulled up Tubi, and I had to spell out romance completely. And then it was like the second one. Because up until that point, it was just giving me a bunch of other random shit.
Yeah.
No one's trying to watch this.
Yeah. Like, this is not, we're ranking by popularity, and this is all the way at the bottom.
Yeah.
My note says, this movie's so hard to find, it might as well be a Ryan pick.
Hey.
All right. Fresh quotes from the Rotten Tomatoes website. We'll start with David Anson from Newsweek, who says, romance can't be easily shrugged off. Breillat and her brave actors take us places we haven't been. For the audience, as well as Marie, it's a journey that has few signposts. So David Anson on my side, maybe even yours, Alex, of the experience.
Yes.
Places we haven't been before. My experience with S&M is limited to what I've seen in movies, and I haven't seen that many. I haven't seen 50 Shades. I haven't seen Secretary. I don't know. Are there any other big ones?
I'm on my personal laptop, so I feel safe in Googling BDSM movies.
Oh, God. Safe search off.
Yeah, I mean, I would think those would be the big ones. Eyes Wide Shut, does that count?
There's an orgy, but I don't think that there's an actual, like, I mean, maybe? No. It's been a while since I watched it, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I know there's something that people are yelling right now. But yeah, Secretary is definitely where my mind goes right away. And I haven't seen the Shades of Grey movies, but, not here to kink shame.
We might be here to French shame, but not kink shame. Next, Anton Bettel from Little White Lies says, a difficult film to love, perhaps as difficult as Marie finds it to love Paul, although there is something in its exploration of gender norms, deviant desires, and the split between body and mind that remains compelling to the finish. He went the artsy way. He might as well have written it in French.
We skipped Crash, by the way. We talked about it in the first half, but Crash definitely counts.
Yeah. It's also kind of weird.
Videodrome? Or is it just all Cronenberg has a little bit of BDSM in it? Yeah.
Yes, The Fly.
Yeah.
There's a giant larva comes out of Gina Davis's vagina. Maybe I just don't understand what BDSM is.
Some people might say we're splitting hairs or getting too far away from the root of BDSM, but now that I'm thinking about it more, I mean, obviously fucking Dennis Hopper's character in Blue Velvet is into some pretty intense shit.
Yeah, but see, now I think that BDSM enthusiasts are going to tell you no, because the whole thing is consent. And he doesn't have it. And
that's a very good point.
So maybe it's a distortion, a corruption of BDSM.
It's a anti-BDSM propaganda.
There you go. Let's go to Roger Ebert, man of the people. It says, from the Chicago Sun-Times, he says, the film has an icy fascination. Perhaps it is a test of how men and women relate to eroticism on the screen. That is interesting, the idea that, obviously, you're generalizing, but along gender lines, so to speak, if you're a man, you experience this movie a certain way. If you're a woman, you experience it a different way. I think that in the decades since, maybe the lines have blurred enough that it's not that cut and dry. But certainly in the late 90s, it was a little more divided that way. But I mean, I don't know, Alex. I think that my experience with this movie had more to do with my lack of familiarity / interest in this specific type of sexual practice. Not so much because I'm a dude, but just because this is not my thing.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's the same if you're a woman. You're either into this or you're not into this. And that will probably inform how much patience you have with this movie to begin with.
How much patience do you have with this movie, Julio?
Very little. I was checking how much time we had left all throughout, but the first time when I just decidedly said I am bored was halfway through. Like my note says, halfway through, I am bored.
Yeah, this was it's a slog, man. And look, let me go ahead and do what I usually do in these situations. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like to be a woman. And so I can't say that Catherine Breillat, again, Catherine, I'm sorry, I know I'm butchering that last name. What her vision of being a woman, wanted to put it on screen, I can't say if that's right or wrong, and I'm not trying to. But what I can tell you is whatever she made, I was mostly bored by. We'll get into it kind of bit by bit here, Julio, but before we do, were you able to guess who the porn star was?
So common sense says that it would be our main character, because unless those were some sort of realistic prosthetics, we actually see her perform oral sex more than once. I mean, I guess it could be the dudes too, because they are having oral sex being performed on them. But I'm going to go with the safe bet and say that it's Marie.
Caroline Ducey should be quite angered to hear you say that, as one of her big things was in her contract. It was explicitly stated the film could under no conditions be classified as pornography, and that she would not.
I didn't say the film was pornography.
And that she would not participate in any unsimulated sex scenes during filming, which I assume that means like intercourse. Our porn star, our subject du jour for this project was Paolo, Rocco Siffredi.
Marie embarks on a series of encounters with other men, such as Paolo, played by hardcore star Rocco Siffredi, in a breakthrough dramatic role.
I don't know, Julio, you might be packing, but you didn't seem awestruck by the size of his fucking bat between his legs, man.
I don't know. I think that I was trying to look away.
It's distracting. It looks like the boom mic fell into frame.
Well, but there is just, I think it's just like my flaw as a viewer watching this movie, because I was just kind of, I don't know how much, you talk about patience, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much time I need to devote to seeing this woman put a condom on this dude, or
Dude,
like help him with it.
Yeah, and I'm messing with you, but yeah, Rocco Siffredi is the gentleman's name. Bit of a legend in the adult film industry. He's made quite a few movies over his time. He was like getting porn for like 30 years or something, and you can see why. What he has there in this movie, though, I think it's kind of like I made the NPC joke. This was his feature film debut. And for that, he just comes across as like an actor just trying to get a part,
Yeah.
His lines aren't stilted, and it's not like he's blowaway. He has nothing really to do. But to be honest, the whole reason I picked this movie was because like Rocco Siffredi was in a movie, and hilariously, we'll get to this. There's a sequel to this movie starring Rocco Siffredi. Can see the wheels turning in Julio's head already. But
Next After Hours.
no, I'm good, man. I'll take your word for it. But yeah, for a guy who's in the AVN Hall of Fame, you wouldn't necessarily right away just be like, God, that guy has no fucking emotion. Is he from porn?
I mean, the scene, the first scene when he meets up with her,
that's
and
good.
they have the exchange. That's good. His reaction to the things she says when she's like, "I'm married" and so on. There's emotion. I mean, I bought it. It's what you said in Contrarians Corner. Anyone could have been the porn star, but at the same time, everyone is fine. It's not that somebody was that anyone could have been the porn star because they were all so bad. It's just no, they were all on the same level, and obviously some of them get more things to do. But okay, so you're telling me that we were not really looking at penises in the movie?
I mean, I surely thought we were, Julio, because of how passionate our director was about this. One of the things was she wanted it to be the first European film with unsimulated sex in it, and to make a real sexual picture. So I could have sworn that in that opening scene I was like, whoa, that she's just mouth on penis there. So I don't know if like the limitations that the lead actress drew came in the form of things couldn't be done to her or whatnot. But before we leave Rocco, because there's obviously not too much to talk about his performance. He's kind of there, takes his cock out,
puts a condom on,
looks real pretty. So one of the interesting things that I found in my research of this, and let me just go ahead and say, in the interest of fairness, some of these quotes and excerpts I found are clearly just run through like Google Translate. So I don't want to use any direct quotes because I don't want to attribute anything being said to the wrong person or like misconstruing what they said. So I'll just be speaking in kind of generalities of these, what I read about this movie. And one of the things was that during the sex scene between Rocco Siffredi and Caroline Ducey, what it sounded like was she was getting really into character and really emotional with the scene, because remember she like cries during that scene where they end up having sex, and she began like not reading her lines, but reciting her lines to him. And basically the way she said it was he just basically switched over into porn mode because that's all he knew how to do, of like just kind of dead behind the eyes and basically ready to get it on, for lack of a better, expression. And it made her like crack and like stop the scene because she thought she was acting and he was just basically trying to like maul her, is what she thought was happening in this scene. And so if this is correct in translation, they had to take that scene 6 times, and the last one was the one they ended up using. Because also, I guess Rocco got mad about this and like stormed off set, and then when he came back, kind of had to work back up into getting his paycheck at full attention. And yes. And so it sounds like it wasn't a particularly fun scene to shoot. The director specifically cast him just because she wanted someone who was hung for that part. But I think it immediately goes into a very interesting point of the idea of bringing on a pornographic actor into a real film to make a sex scene, and they don't know how to act in that situation. And, it sounds kind of funny, but you think about it in that context, and especially for a scene where like the female character here, Marie, is trying to show like, look, I think the dialogue's silly, and like what the movie's trying to say at this point in time is really, really ham-fisted. But the whole idea stands that if she feels as though she's getting into a character of someone who's broken, and then you're looking on the other side of it and someone's not giving that back to you, I could see that fucking with your head as an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I could see. I'm not even gonna try to play devil's advocate. So this is not me trying to give the guy's side of it, but it's gotta be extra tough because I got the impression that his character is supposed to be like that. She's supposed to be very emotional, and he is not really connecting to it that way.
Yeah.
So
it's a good take.
That adds like an extra layer of complication. Obviously, she knows how she felt, and I don't know. This is, in a way, me as a spectator, I get to say this is so beyond my pay grade. Like, I'm not gonna tell the director how to make the movie, but as a regular person watching it, I'll be like, it's not worth it.
No.
Why would you do all this stuff, put people in such sensitive positions, so dangerous, and for what? I understand. Obviously, there's like a passion behind this project, and there is, we called it in Contrarians Corner, there's an intention. This is not just gratuitous nudity and sex for the sake of it, but I'm sorry. Maybe if the movie hit me harder, I would say, oh, yeah, that's why. I mean, fuck, we had a version of this conversation when we were talking about Blue is the Warmest Color. Yeah. But the difference is that movie
is good.
Exactly. It floored both of us. So we're like, all right, it seems like everybody survived the making of it, and then they have this movie to show for it. Whereas like in this case, you have a kind of like a weird story, the behind the scenes story to tell, and then the movie is certainly not something that I appreciate. I guess there are people who appreciate it. Obviously, there were some fresh tomatoes, and Ebert seems to have liked it. But
yeah, that's and to close on that, it doesn't help as Rocco Siffredi is one of those, not to the extent of. Do you remember that movie we did In the Canyons?
I really want to thank you for giving me that role.
I didn't give you that role. The director did. You're busy making my own little movies.
What do you mean you make your own movies?
Do I, Alex?
Okay.
Speaking, that was like an unintended prequel to this summer event.
It was. That's what got the gears turning in my head. It was because I was like, we can't end it on that note. We have to find like, because you remember we were both complimentary of the male in it. James Dean, I think, was his stage name, but he had some pretty horrific accusations against him. Yeah. Rocco similarly has. A few people have accused him of pushing boundaries in scenes. From what I've found, nothing to the degree of like holy fucking shit of that guy from In the Canyons. But you add that in here and it's kind of like it makes for an uncomfortable scene, which again, the whole point of it is could have been avoided. But apparently, Caroline, again, this is just broad strokes from translated articles that I found. Rocco Siffredi was going around saying their sex scene was real, and she took umbrage with that and was trying to refute that, saying she wasn't actually, penetrated at any point in this movie. But I think we might as well just go ahead and cover this while we're here, where things get even dicier and more prickly. And again, I think I'm immediately going to just steal your phrase of "for what" is in both 2022 and 2024, Caroline Douce stated that she was assaulted while filming this movie, specifically the staircase scene. The gentleman performed unsimulated oral sex on her, and she blamed the director for it. Braylet, I'll get it right one of these days. Saying that, she assured her things would be fine and that, it wasn't going to get out of control. In response, the director was pretty steadfast in saying that she read the script as it was written, and the script I wrote was incredibly explicit and detailed exactly what was going to happen in shooting and filming. And she said that none of the sex scenes were actually in her contract, but she agreed to film them anyway. Basically doubled down on her stance that it didn't happen the way she said it did. And I think, again, I'm certainly not going to take any sides in that situation. Just, recounting what I read about when researching this movie. And I think you're exactly right. Even in 1999, we watched this movie today and I texted you, it's almost like the opening shots and like, the way the characters talk, it's almost like a parody that someone would make of like a French art house movie. But even in 1999, like, look, at no point in time is this movie, like, there's no generation or era where this is good. It's boring and meandering, and it's whatever its thesis is or what it's trying to say isn't completely like thought and fleshed out. And it's like there's like half ideas every once in a while in this. And then there's also like moments of writing in this that it's like they forgot about something and had to catch up on it in the voiceover from Marie, and the whole introduction like towards the end of the movie of her being a nymphomaniac, and it's like, no, that's not what this was about to begin with. And so all this turmoil and this strife that's lasted decades for what?
I guess we need to consider that we are not the audience for this movie. But help me figure out who the audience is, Alex, which might be hard for you because obviously we're on the outside looking in. But joked about it in Contrarians Corner. There are people who maybe watch this. In my mind, they're European, that they just watch this and are like, oh yeah, this is one of those movies about sex. And maybe they get something. I know that I have trouble getting much out of it just because the entire experience is just kind of, for the 10th time in this recording. No kink shaming, but this is not my bag. And so I don't find it engaging. I just find it difficult to sit through. So I already have a barrier between the movie and me. And so that makes it harder to connect to the things I might be saying. But if you don't have that barrier, maybe you can just really get invested in this woman's dilemma. The idea of her being in love with a man that is not fulfilling her needs and the search for something that fulfills those needs without having to leave the man behind. And then finally, the thing that frees her is motherhood. She becomes a mother and suddenly she has the strength to cut off this relationship in the most extreme way. But, everything is symbolic in a way in this movie and so on. I think that for me to find that story satisfying, it needs to be told in a different way. But there has to be an audience that this director makes movies for that are like, oh yeah, this is the way we wanted it. It has to be this slow and it has to be so, I don't want to call it grimy because obviously if you're into this stuff, it's not, this is what you're into. But do you see a scenario where there's a version of this movie where the sex is something that's more your speed, my speed, and suddenly that maybe makes it more entertaining to watch?
I don't know. I mean, I remember finding Secretary to be an entertaining and engaging movie, and again, it incorporates elements that, you know, aren't my thing when I get down. Dude, honestly, to me, the dialogue in this is just, and
Yeah.
maybe something was lost in translation. It's possible, but the words that I read were so silly and so like eye rolling and like just so on the nose. And it was, and also the pacing. Look, I'll raise you one. There might be a short film, Frankenstein, from this movie that's interesting. But the two elongated S&M scenes are supposed to, you know, be our main character's self-discovery, and part of them are interesting. The first S&M scene where she tells him to stop and then he comforts her is one of the more interesting moments in the movie. So those scenes are engaging, even though I'm not like into that. But everything else around it is just such a fucking to say it moves at a snail's pace is insulting to snails, man. It's just such a slog. And also, speaking of animals, before I forget.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I was going crazy. It's never revealed until the end that there's a cat. Fine. A cat shows up. But then we have the long look at the cat sleeping peacefully.
Yeah.
And then we know that the cat gets blown up too, which, look, if this is your first time listening to the Contrarians, you picked a whopper episode to tune in for, but that's something Julio and I, 99.9% of the time we will say it was unnecessary, is when you introduce an animal just to kill it for no real reason in a movie.
Does it change anything? Does it make things...
No!
I mean, I don't know, man. It does change something for someone like me, because if you show her blowing up Paul, I'm like, all right, good riddance. But then you show her blowing up Paul and the cat, and then I completely turn on her. Like, my note literally says, fuck this movie. They killed the cat.
Yes.
So maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is that she has become, yes, she's free now, but in the process of being free, she's become a bad person. That sounds very simplistic. I don't know. I don't like it anyway.
Describing herself as a filmmaker, not a social worker, Breat has remained a divisive presence in modern cinema, being branded the most sadistic and downright evil director I have ever worked with by Last Mistress star Asia Argento.
Before I forget to call it out, because I not many moons, but I have seen this movie. This director also wrote and directed Fat Girl. Are you familiar with that movie?
No. So this is your second movie by this director?
Yeah, I looked that up earlier. I was like, oh shit, Fat Girl, I believe, has a Criterion. It's like a coming of age. It's also kind of slow, and I don't want to say you don't learn anything by the end of it, but it's better than this. I'll say that.
Tomato meter. If it's this one, is it from 2001? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 73%. The tomato meter, 64 the popcorn meter. I'm not gonna watch it, but I was curious.
Yeah, it does have a Criterion. I thought I remembered that. I'm pretty sure that's one of those movies that back in the, not the infant days of YouTube, but I'm pretty sure I watched like when that whole movie was on YouTube. You remember that era before like there was like massive like copyright crackdowns where just YouTube was kind of the Wild West where just a ton of shit would get uploaded on it and you could kind of watch whatever. There was if there's any younger listeners, there was a period of time where just like whole movies were like outlaw uploaded onto YouTube, and I'm pretty sure that's where I watched that back in the diz. But all right, so we've talked about the movie. It doesn't work for either of us, and I understand the budget was modest, but even the explosion's not cool. It's just kind of like,
can you imagine though? If you had to.
Dude, like for real though. So it's just kind of like an impact bomb that goes off and blows like a couple windows out is what happens in this movie. But can you imagine? It's like fucking the hospital in the Dark Knight. Like that's what happens is the whole thing fucking. There is the first Child's Play. Chucky sets up a similar. Did we do the first Child's Play on here?
No, we just talked about it on an After Hours, I think.
Where Chucky sets up the exact same scenario where he turns the stove on and lets this house fill with gas. If you go back and watch it, and when it blows up, like there are people, like kids, maybe kids, I mean like 16, 17, that are just used to like CG explosions that would watch that and be like, holy shit. And it's fucking child's play.
Is everything okay?
It looks real. All right. So we talked about the movie. It ain't working for us. At best, if I had to remove the word boring, I would say this movie is just dripping with pretension to like a comedic degree. Which, to be fair, Julio, I think you'd agree with this. This movie clearly wants to be pretentious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if we dug a little and found interviews with the director, she probably has a lot to say about what the movie has to say.
Yes.
Just how every sexual encounter carries its own meaning and how they add up to something. It would be funny if it all added up to kind of what we've gotten out of it. The only difference is that we didn't enjoy the journey. And maybe she would say, well, you're not supposed to enjoy it. You're just supposed to suffer. It's always so tricky with movies that can be this graphic because I'm always second guessing my reaction. You know, am I unsophisticated because I am letting these images, the explicit nature of it, really kind of take me out of the experience or influence the experience so much, dictate the experience so much. And then there are audiences that arguably would be more sophisticated that they're just like, no, you know, it's just, that's a penis.
Yeah, well, that's fine. We've watched a lot of movie with peni before, to be honest. And
Yes.
I think it's just going to be nature that we go back to Blue is the Warmest Color. It's French. It's a really sexually charged film that we did on here. And it's also a movie that, you know, we both really enjoy. And I think what I would say is a movie like that, now I'm going to be pretentious. The sex feels like part of the story and not the story. With this, there's just so much like graphic imagery that in the end serves no purpose. I'm going to excuse the childbirth stuff because that's fine. That, you know, this woman's been trying to find herself the whole time, and we see this life come out of her, and that gives her a new life. I get that 100%. But there's like a part where Roberto like cuts her panties open, and we watch her run his fingers up her vagina, and then the camera just kind of fixates on like the glistening and stuff, and it's just like, what did that accomplish? I guess it is showing that she was excited by what happened, but it's just, with all due respect, the movie feels like someone envisioned these scenes of of sex graphically depicted, or close-ups of fucking sexual organs, and then just figured out how to put dialogue in between them. Like it feels like a movie that's almost made just to rouse controversy, which, look, there's plenty of movies that have been made like that made a ton of money and got a lot of fucking praise. It's just, I tried hard for exactly the reasons you said, because I don't want to watch this and then someone be like, oh man, you just don't get it, you're xenophobic, or, you know, it's
you missed the point.
You missed the point. No, I tried to find it and it's not there. That's basically
No, but the point, like the cat, might be just exactly that we are used to. And look, I'm not really defending it. It didn't work for me, but if I was the director and I had to defend it, I would say you have plenty of sex scenes. I probably made a similar point when we were talking about Blue is the Warmest Color. You have so many scenes in movies all around the world that sanitize sex or give you the Hollywood version, the mainstream version of a sex scene. And so there has to be some value in depicting it in a different way, depicting it in a nastier way or a more in-your-face way. Now, if you're just doing it without it adding up too much, then it's gratuitous, I think. But in this case, I can see how you could make the argument that, well, no, you're supposed to experience it with her. And the way that you experience it with her is by this being graphic. It doesn't work for me again, but I have to give it the benefit of the doubt and think that there are people that this works for.
Yeah. And I could see someone making that excuse too, but still, like, I could almost bend, you know, my thoughts on the movie and say I'm feeling it with her up until the point where she decides to fucking kill Paul. Like that. It's like, all right, well, I think we skipped a few steps. Can we go back to go? I think we're missing out on a few pieces of the puzzle here. I don't know. I almost at one point wanted to enjoy it just to like, be like, see, I can be artsy, but it's, can you imagine if this was 3 hours long, like Blue is Warm as Color is?
Oh man. I was just so glad that I was cursing the commercials because I started last night and it was
Same.
late.
I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah. And I'm like, I need to finish it tonight because I can't finish it at work. And then I told you after work, I was going to have dinner with my in-laws. So I wasn't going to have time to watch it after work. So it's like, it has to happen.
You don't want them to watch it with you?
Well, but see, I would have to start the movie from the beginning because otherwise I wouldn't understand the pain of Marie. And I have time for that.
Le salaud. Il me laisse seule avec cette affreuse angoisse que bientôt mon sexe va se dilater, que je vais expulser le bébé de mon corps.
All right, so to not pick on Blue is Warm as Color, let's talk about another erotic drama that you and I have spent a lot of time discussing, both on and off air. Shame comes to mind immediately, as it was, I think, up until, what was the Marilyn Monroe movie with, was it Ana de Armas?
Yeah.
And that was an NC-17 rated movie that I think prior to that, the one that garnered the most hype or attention would have been Shame. And you and I are not crazy about that the way we are Blue is Warm as Color, but like...
But I like Shame more than you do.
You do, and I like Shame more than Romance. But it's very similar in that it's, someone driven by sexual desires, and there's very graphic imagery in it. So what do you think separates a movie like that from something like this? That our main character's pain is more clearly defined?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was instantly what I thought of. It was like, well, you understand what the problem is in a relatable way. I think that a dude that's obsessed with porn is more relatable. Maybe it's just more relatable to me, like as a guy that has watched porn in his life, right? As opposed to this, I guess, in my male-coded brain, it's a lot harder to grasp the idea that there's this guy that just doesn't want to have sex with his girlfriend and that this girl can't leave him, so instead she chooses to cheat on him. I understand that there's real life scenarios that probably play out that way, but it's it's not particularly common in a way. It doesn't appeal to mainstream audiences the way that Michael Fassbender just being unable to stop watching porn is. I think
well,
Alex,
also
the
he does a lot of fucking in that movie too, man.
Right, but he's not fulfilled. I guess that's the overlap. Much like Marie, he's not fulfilled by his sexual experiences.
Fuck, what is that Modern Family where Phil puts the decal on the car but doesn't read it when it doesn't see the spacing, and it's just a picture of Claire that says, "I can't be satisfied."
The real equivalence, Alex, I think, is with Crash.
Cronenberg, not the Oscar winner.
Exactly. Not racist Crash, sexy Crash. Because that movie was maybe harder to relate, because these are people that are getting aroused by car accidents. And
you like that movie a whole lot more than I do also.
I did, and I do. And so it's not necessarily just down to relatability or, things that we can draw direct lines to when it comes to our feelings or whatever. The people in Crash, as discussed in that episode, what they're going through is very divorced from my life, but I can still really connect to it in a way. And so why is it that I can connect to that and not to what's going on in Romance? Is it because it's like James Spader, Holly Hunter, Casey Jones, and that already gives me an in? Or is it just that, I'm sorry, but the cinematography, the way that Cronenberg shoots that movie is just kind of spellbinding, and this not so much. I mean, it's graphic in its own way, and that didn't put me off in the way that this movie put me off at times. I don't know. I guess, do you prefer Cronenberg's Crash to this movie, to Romance?
Yeah, definitely.
Why?
It's just more interesting. I hate to keep going back to the point, but it's like, it just feels like a desire was there to make a movie that was just intensely sexually provocative with no real approach. Just make it to make it. Crash, it just kind of loses me at points of like in its nonsensical nature. But one thing I will never say is if you watch that movie, you will go, well, there was no vision here. That's not something you will walk away saying. Shame is the same way. I think Shame was a movie that my thoughts on it today, it's my own doing, because when I saw it the first time, I really, really liked it. And then I watched it again and I didn't have the same feeling that I had on the first watch. And that kind of like, I guess, deflated me and had me second guessing. That's completely different. But even with that movie, still, I'll watch it today and be like, yeah, there's clear like idea and vision here. And artistically, there's nothing in this movie that comes close to approaching the shot of Michael Fassbender running from his apartment to Madison Square Garden, all one continuous shot. Sorry.
No, I think I say this shot where he breaks the fourth wall.
No, that still is one of the all-time fuck you, like me saying to a movie, fuck you. Like, but I'm stealing your gimmick here. I'm fucking John Hurt and Big. I don't get it. Like I would just, if I was in the screening of this, I'd be like, what are you trying to say? I don't, which again, look, this could be a thing that I'm not a woman. I don't quite understand, but at the same time, I'm just telling you my thoughts of it's boring, and I think I understand what the message is, but it just, the circuitous route it took to get there is just not engaging filmmaking for me. Real quick before we get to Raj's review, because we talked about the movie. If you haven't been able to tell, I don't think Julio and I are reaching out to procure any physical copies of this anytime soon. The male characters all, I think, exist to be kind of just there, bland, fucking stagnant walls. But this movie is obviously the Caroline or Caroline Ducey. That's her show. And while I find some of the dialogue she recites to be absolutely preposterous and silly, she says it with conviction. And the scenes that call on her to act, respond emotionally and with, a certain vigor. We called out specifically the scene that I think you and I both probably think is the keystone of the movie, where she asks him to stop, to untie her, and then the recovery period after that. She's very good in that. But overall, her performance in this, Julio, what say you?
I think it's fine. My problem with the movie is not her fault. I think she's actually really good. I didn't know how to bring it up in Contrarians Corner, how to make a joke about it, but I really like the fact that 50% of the movie, if not more, her hair is over her face.
Yes.
And at first it was driving me nuts, and then I kind of grew to like it. It's like, oh, that's her thing. She just likes having the hair over her face. She's fine. If she had turned out to be the porn star, I would have been like, man, that's a great performance. Like, that's how you make a splash in a real movie. But yeah, no, she's good. I mean, is there anybody that's actually bad? You're right. I mean, there's not a whole lot to the other characters, so you really can't. It's kind of hard to judge them.
I would say the guy who plays Paul Sagamore Stevenin is very milquetoast, but that's obviously by design because he's just like a shithead is his character.
Yeah. Do you like his dancing?
Oh no, this total white guy bullshit, man. Which I already made the joke, but this movie is like epitome white people shit. All right, so Roger Ebert, we had a quote pulled back in 1999. November 12th is when he logged his review. 3 out of 4 stars. There's some interesting things in this review that I think we can close on as we look to the future. There is a fantasy scene in romance where a woman's body is divided by a wall. On one side from the waist down, she is in a brothel. On the other side from the waist up, in a delivery room. What is the message of the scene? Don't be too sure you know. I know I don't. It isn't some kind of simplistic message linking childbirth with misuse by men. The woman having the fantasy isn't really against the activities on either side of the wall. Maybe the scene is intended as an illustration of her own confusion about sex. The woman's name is Marie, Caroline Ducey. She could be the woman Freud was thinking about when he confessed he could not answer the question, what do women want? Marie asks herself the same question. She wants something, all right. She is unhappy with her boyfriend, Paul, who refuses to sleep with her, and unhappy, too, with the sexual adventures she has. It's like there's a disconnect between her body and her identity. She does things that sometimes make her feel good, but she doesn't feel good because she has done them. Romance, written and directed by Catherine Brillat, became notorious on the festival circuit this autumn because it is an intelligent, radical film by a woman, and at the same time it contains explicit nudity and, as nearly as we can tell, actual sex. It is not arousing or pornographic because the sex isn't presented in an erotic way. It's more like a documentary of a dogged woman's forced march towards orgasm, a goal she is not sure she values. Marie narrates the film herself and also seems to be reading pages from her journal. She's baffled by herself, baffled by men, baffled by sex. Even after climax, her hands close on air. Of course, the film is French. It is said that for the French, wine takes the place of flirting, dining takes the place of seduction, smoking takes the place of foreplay, and talking takes the place of sex. Romance is so analytical that you sometimes get the feeling Marie is putting herself through her sexual encounters simply to get material for her journal. These poor guys aren't lovers, they're case studies. And yet the film has an icy fascination. Perhaps it is a test of how men and women relate to eroticism on the screen. I know a few men who like it much, sure proof it is not pornographic. Women defend it in feminist terms, but you have the strangest feeling they're not saying what they really think. At a screening at the Toronto Film Festival, there was some laughter, almost all female, but I couldn't tell if it was nervous or knowing. Which goes back to the original point. You and I could talk about this all day, but we really don't know. Perhaps the sex content gets in the way, causing our old tapes to play. When we see a stud on screen, like Rocco Siffredi, in real life, an Italian porno actor famous for one very good reason, we go into porno mode and expect to see, well, what we usually see. But romance doesn't have that mode. Marie relates to Paolo, Siffredi's character, as if he is a laboratory specimen. So this is the famous white rat she's heard so much about. Can he bring her pleasure? Is it perhaps a matter of physical endowment? And what about Robert? Francois Berland. We haven't given him his credit for his real name. Francois Berland, who offers to tie her up. He's an ordinary man, not handsome, not exciting, but has all the necessary equipment and skills, and when he makes his offer, she agrees, as if he is a guide at Disney World suggesting one more ride she should take before leaving the park. Does she like bondage? She goes back for more. Perhaps it's not the sexual side that pleases her, but the fact that when Robert is arranging the ropes and restraints, at least he is thinking about her. There's a scene in the movie that looks like sexual assault, but is it? She more or less invites the stranger who mistreats her. She wants to take a chance, and then she finds out she didn't like it. So she's defiant towards the guy, but it's not anger at how he treated her. It's triumph that she feels undefeated. Later, there's a gynecological examination, perhaps the creepiest scene in the movie as the interns line up for their turn. I did not really enjoy this movie, and yet I recommend it. Why? Because I think it's onto something interesting. Movies buy the whole romantic package, lock, stock, and barrel. People look great, fall in love, and have wonderful sex. Even intelligent characters in smart movies all seem to think more or less the same way while they're in the sack. Erroneous autopilot takes over. Here is a movie about a woman who never stops thinking. That may not be as good for you as it is for her. So I love that line. I read that like twice today because I just love the closing line of, I did not enjoy this movie, and yet I recommend it.
Well, I like the idea that, you know what, the movie was not about you enjoying this. The movie was about Marie enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fair. There's a lot of fair call-outs in there like Roger typically brings to the table. I don't know if it's enough to really sway me one way or the other, but I definitely think it's an interesting read on the movie.
It does. I mean, the most charitable way to put it is what I've been saying on my end, which is like, it's not for me. This movie was not made for me. And so it's harder for me to appreciate the things I might be doing right. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it because I don't think that it's like a masterpiece that I just can't connect with. I think it's an interesting movie about sex that completely strikes out with me. And that's fine. There's others. Do I feel inadequate because I can't really get on its level? No. I mean, that was a lot more fun in Contrarians Corner, but over here, no, it's just not my thing, man. I was just bored.
Which, as we always say, for you and me, is the most heinous crime a movie can commit is being boring. And I largely found myself bored during this entire movie.
Yeah, I am open to the idea that, as Ebert says throughout his review, and we've kind of tossed around, maybe there is a key difference. Maybe you can project feelings against the patriarchy that are easier to access if you're a woman and you're watching this. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
This is just like a big fuck you to all the men who either refuse to have sex with you or want to have sex with you on their terms, or want to have sex with you but they don't satisfy you. Maybe those are things that are basically alien to me. And so if you're a woman and you've dealt with that time after time, this movie might feel a little more alive. So I wouldn't have wanted to do this recording with a female guest, because that would just have this would be like a 3-hour conversation. I think I would have felt just too nervous.
Oh yeah, I would
to be
be
candid.
I'd just be like, go ahead. Like, I'm not in a place. It's just you and me, two dudes who talking about this, Julio, which of course is, I think, in some ways defining irony. But yeah,
No, we're talking about how two dudes experienced it.
That's true. Yeah.
But do you female listeners, I mean, that have, if you have a very different point of view, or if you have the same point of view, chime in, let us know. I don't know. I kind of hate the idea that anybody could get curious. They haven't watched the movie, then they listen to this episode, and somehow that leads to them watching it, because it's really, I think the odds of anybody enjoying it are
It's
low.
not a pleasant experience.
Yeah. But somehow if you
might take something from it. Yeah. But don't get it wrong. It's not a pleasant movie.
Yeah. At the very least, do the run up to it. Do Rabbit, 52 Pickup,
Yes.
Running Man, and then hit Romance.
Agent provocateur Catherine Breillat, Devil or Angel? Decide for yourself.
Fucking perfect segue there, Julio. So before we get there, reviews. This isn't a flat out F, but this would be like a D, like a 1.5 star review. That's where I'm at on it. Yeah, it's not. I don't hate this movie. It's one that obviously we got 2 hours of conversation out of. It's one that I'm sure we'll reference in the future. But this is a D. It's not a good movie for me, Julio. Where are you landing?
I think it's going to be 1 star. It has to reflect how unpleasant the whole thing was for me.
There you go.
When I log it on Letterboxd, I will make sure to call out that it's just not my bag. But 1 star, it's just boring and a chore. And it's short, and yet it feels so long. And it's not the commercials. So.
And I know I keep going back to this, but it borders on like comedically French art house, like the things that if someone made a movie and in that movie there's a character who's a pretentious film snob, his favorite movie would be something like this. That's like the almost level of cliche that it is.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, definitely not a recommendation.
It is not.
No, I think the first complete miss in B2B, bedroom to the big screen, bedroom to box office. This one didn't work, which means that odds are that we only go up from here.
I hope that is true, Julio, as I believe our next stop may turn out to be the most interesting of the whole journey as we go to the year of 2009 and The Girlfriend Experience, starring Sasha Grey in the leading role, directed by Steven Soderbergh. I guess I remember when this came out, when I was in college, it felt like it was getting some like buzz and hype, but it's a movie that a lot of people don't really remember. It's certainly not a movie that's readily available, as Julio, you'll be proud to know. I did get a physical copy that, you'll have to come by the house to pick up and watch. I found a studio screener that was sent out to critics on eBay, an unused one for $10.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
So it's certainly interesting discussion to come along with that. I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, another sub 90-minute film, and Soderbergh back in the fold.
Now, before we get to the next stop in B2B, we have to hit the next stop on FERF. So just so you know, FERF number 11 is going to be next on the main feed, and Alex made the decision. We're going to be watching Jojo Rabbit because he needs to make up his mind about Taika Waititi. And, you know, he plays a version of Hitler. He pulls a Chaplin and plays a version of Hitler in Jojo Rabbit. So that's coming up next. Then the Girlfriend Experience.
And speaking of Steven Soderbergh, already on the main feed by the time you listen to this, there's a full commentary track for the Gina Carano thriller Haywire, presented by the Tough 20 crew of myself, Julio, Steve from Twitter, and the incomparable Joe Holbert. So be sure to check that out.
Now, if you're curious about some of the movies that we mentioned in this conversation, as you probably are, yes, we did a full episode on Crash. That's episode 130. We did Contrarians Corner, where that was when we were doing gray area episodes, Alex. So I think I defended it and you went against it. Either way, it's a great chat about the sexy Crash. We talked about Blue is the Warmest Color on our very first Patreon bonus episode. That was in December 2020, if you want to go through the Patreon feed. Also on the Patreon feed, The Canyons. That was part of our Lohan miniseries. That was part 3, released in August 2023. So you can do the search there.
Look, I don't mean to toot our own horns, but like that Lohan journey is one of the greater accomplishments we've done. And
a point of pride.
It is. And to see the turnaround that's coming, not just her career, but her life since then too, has been pretty cool.
Yeah. So check that out. And it's funny. I wrote this down because I thought it would be relevant. I ended up not really bringing it up. But Alex, I will say we did cover No Holds Barred on our bonus episode on the main feed.
Was Jesse Ventura in this and I missed it?
No. I'm bringing it up just because I remember that being one of those movies where, as I was watching it, I mean, it was a tough experience, but also me thinking, how am I going to talk about this? What is that episode going to be like? And then, you know, and we were okay. And that was a little bit my experience with romance, where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. So just thought I would drop that in there. Now, on the Patreon channel proper, what you can see, if you were looking at our Patreon channel today, as we record this, there's a quick video review from me for the JCVD movie starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. There's our bonus episode on the Japanese musical Memories of Matsuko. There's an After Hours where we talk about September 5th, Men, Women, and Children, and The Birdcage. If you go further back, you can see our first Julio at the Matches commentary, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. And more recently, an After Hours where I tell Alex about all the 2026 movies I've seen so far, and Alex tells me about his latest visit to a horror convention. So lots of stuff on the Patreon channel, patreon.com/ContrarianPrime. Check it out. Join at whatever level you want. And that's it, Alex. Let's get out of here.
Take care, y'all.
Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Corey Ari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
Just for old time's sake, I really don't care who